Subscribe to Man Told for more stories. Now let's begin this one. That night, I was ready to propose, but when I walked into the room, all I found was an empty closet and a divorce paper neatly placed on the table. The ring I had just bought was still in my jacket pocket, cold as stone. I had pictured myself kneeling down, placing it in her hand. Instead, my eyes stopped at the hangers, still swaying, as if she had just left. The house was so quiet, I could hear the ticking clock on the wall. My coffee was still warm, but her cup was gone, like it had never existed. I called her name, no answer. Only the wind slipping through the garage door. I picked up the paper, my hands shaking. No note, no reason, just her signature. Cold, clean, final, as if 10 years of love were nothing more than a form. To erase, I dropped to the wooden floor, the ring pressed into my chest. Heavy, like a stone. I had never felt so small, so lost. The woman I loved most walked away, without even looking back. The cruelest part wasn't that she left. It was knowing I was the last to see it coming. The neighbors looked at me with pity. Friends stayed silent. Maybe the whole town knew. Everyone, except me, still believing our love was real. That night, I sat alone in the garage, the yellow light casting shadows on the cracked wall. I clenched the ring until my hand bled, desperate to find a reason to hold her back. But there was nothing left to hold on to, and as the night swallowed the house, one haunting question rose inside me. Did I lose her? Or did I lose myself? That very moment. My name is Alaric Murphy, 36 years old, a mechanic in a small town where everyone knows each other, and every secret only stays hidden for so long. Most of my life was spent in the garage, surrounded by the smell of oil, the sound of hammers striking steel, my hands always stained with grease. Life was simple. I woke up at 6, brewed a cup of black coffee, opened the old metal garage door, screeching as it rose. At night, I came home to her. Sometimes it was just instant noodles, fried eggs, and the radio humming dull news. But to me, it felt complete. We had known each other since high school. I remember her sitting at the back row, tapping her pen when she was bored. I used to think maybe I was the only one who found that habit charming. Years later, when we met again, we came back together. I believed it was fate. I was never a romantic man. I didn't buy flowers every week. I wasn't good with words, but I worked hard. I fixed the broken fridge, changed the burned-out bulbs, paid the bills on time, and I thought that was enough to keep a home. But now, looking back, I see the cracks. There were nights I came home late. She'd be staring out the window, eyes farther away than the sky outside. I asked. She only smiled. It's nothing. But the smile never reached her eyes. Sometimes I noticed receipts for fancy clothes in her purse, while I wore the same greasy overalls, worn thin at the shoulders. I told myself she deserved better. But deep inside, I was afraid. Afraid I wasn't good enough for her. Many nights, I woke at 3 a.m. I'd go down to the garage, turn on the dim yellow bulb, sit there, staring at unpaid bills stuffed in a toolbox. The silence was so heavy, I could hear my own heartbeat. And yet, the next morning, I smiled at her as if nothing had happened. I lied to myself that everything was fine, that we were still whole. But the truth was, I was the only one still holding on. When I piece it all together now, I see it clearly. Our marriage had been breaking for a long time. I only realized after it had already fallen apart. The early years still had warmth. I'd take her fishing on weekends. I'd wait an hour for a small fish, and she'd just sit there, laughing at me. Once she said, "You're strange. You can wait so long for something so small." And I answered, "As long as it's with you, I can wait forever." She laughed, and I believed that smile would never change. But slowly, those moments disappeared. Instead, there were nights she dressed up, said she was going to parties with friends. I'd stand in the garage, hands still greasy, watching her car disappear down the street. When she came back, her hair carried a perfume I never bought. I asked. She said, "A friend lent it to me." I nodded. But inside, a small cut opened in my chest. Once, while doing laundry, I found a receipt in her coat pocket. A fancy restaurant. I had never taken her there. and my salary could never cover it. I held the slip of paper for a long time, then slipped it back, pretending I never saw. I didn't have the courage to ask. Many nights, lying beside her, I stared at the ceiling, wondering, was I good enough? My hands were rough, my nails stained black, and in those parties, maybe she was surrounded by men in pressed suits, shiny shoes, confident smiles. I feared one day she'd realize the difference and choose to leave. There were times I almost asked her, "Do you still love me?" But when she turned toward me, tired, I forced a smile, swallowed the question whole. I'd rather live with the doubt than hear an answer that could destroy me. I hid my fears in silence. By day, I worked, I laughed, I kept the house in order. By night, while she slept, I sat under the yellow light, shoving unpaid bills into the toolbox, stacking higher and heavier, just like my heart. They say men don't cry. Maybe that's true. But I remember once, sitting in that garage, looking at my grease-stained hands, and the tears just fell. I realized silence isn't always strength. Sometimes it's cowardice. I kept telling myself things would get better, that it was just a rough patch. But the truth was, I was losing her, bit by bit, and it felt like holding sand in my hands. The tighter I tried to grip, the faster it slipped away. I thought I still had time. But one day, I found something that changed my life forever. That afternoon, it was drizzling. I came home early. The garage was empty, my body worn out. The kitchen was dark, only a small light over the sink. On the table, her tablet, left open, the screen still lit. An email. Weekend cabin at Pine Ridge. Reservation confirmed. From Cole. I froze. My finger trembled. Touched the screen. A chain of messages opened. Bring the wine? Don't worry, I've got everything ready. And below, an email from a law office. Divorce settlement options? Draft. I stood there, holding the tablet. The kitchen, silent as stone. The clock on the wall ticked, each second heavy, like a countdown to collapse. I breathed hard. My hand hovered over the delete button, ready to erase everything, pretend I had never seen it. But I stopped, my heart pounding. If I erased it, I'd only be clinging to an illusion. My hands shook. Instead, I saved them and sent them to my own email. That night, when she came home, I tried to stay calm. I asked, "Got plans this weekend?" She opened the fridge. "Going with the girls," she said. I blurted out, "Pine Ridge." Her hand froze for half a second. Then she turned, forcing a smile. "You don't trust me." I looked straight into her eyes. "I just want the truth." She crossed her arms. "I need something more than your cramped little garage." Her words hit me like a fist. I swallowed everything I wanted to say. That night, I sat in the garage. Under the dim yellow light, I opened my old notebook, wrote it all down. The emails, her words, even the pause when she heard me say, "Pine Ridge." I was afraid one day I'd doubt my own memory. So I kept the truth in ink. Later, I opened the desk drawer. The ring I had bought just days ago, still there. I had planned to give it to her over a quiet dinner. Now, it sat cold, among scraps of paper, lifeless. I closed the drawer. It felt like burying part of myself. The next morning, I went to work, changed oil, pumped tires, like a machine. But in my head, one sentence played over and over. "I need more than your garage." That night, she said she had a weekend team building. I nodded. She went to bed early. I sat alone in the living room. My phone buzzed. A number I didn't know. I stepped outside to answer, rain tapping the roof above me. "Are you Alaric?" A trembling woman's voice. "Yes. I'm Hannah, Cole's wife. We need to talk." I stood frozen under the awning, rain dripping all around me, her breath shaky on the line. "Tomorrow. Diner on 3rd Street. 10 o'clock. I'll bring something. You need to see." I hung up, my hand shaking, the phone wet with rain. Inside, she slept peacefully, her scarf on the nightstand, carrying that strange perfume again. I looked at the drawer, at the ring inside, and wondered, did it mean anything anymore? When the truth was already at the door. The next morning, I went to the diner. 10 o'clock sharp. A woman walked in, brown hair, clutching her bag. When our eyes met, I knew this was a turning point. No way back. She set a manila envelope on the table. I don't want this. But you deserve the truth. I opened it. Inside, photographs. The first one, Lauren, my wife, stepping out of a wooden cabin in the woods, Cole beside her, his arm brushing hers, both smiling. In the corner, the date, last weekend. My throat went dry. I turned to the next photo, Lauren, sitting on the porch, a glass of red wine in her hand. Her eyes, tilted toward Cole. That smile, the very smile I used to dream about every night. A smile that had long vanished from our home. Another photo, his arm around her waist, her head resting on his shoulder, like it was the safest place in the world. No excuses, no friends, no work. This was betrayal. Plain, undeniable. My chest hollowed out. I set the photos down, my hands shaking so hard. The coffee rippled. Across from me, Hannah's eyes red. You see, she whispered, I believed my husband was just busy. But every weekend, he was busy with your wife. I wanted to speak, but my throat burned dry. A thought clawed its way into me. Not just losing her, but losing the way she once smiled at me. That smile now belonged to someone else. And that hurt far worse than betrayal. We sat in silence. The waitress refilled the coffee. Hannah's hand shook. A spoon clattered to the floor. I bent down, picked it up. Her hand was clenched tight, as if she too was afraid of breaking. At last, I slid the envelope into my coat. Thank you. She didn't look at me, just nodded. I walked out into the gray sky, cold air cutting through my jacket. In my truck, I set the envelope on the seat beside me, the ring in my drawer, the photos on this seat, love and truth, two forces pulling apart, forcing me to choose. I sat still, rain streaking down the windshield, blurring the world beyond. That night, I came home. The lights were on. Lauren sat on the sofa, phone to her ear. When she saw me, she hung up quickly, forced a smile. You're home. Just talking to a friend. I said nothing. Went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, drank it down. When I came back, her eyes followed me. For a moment, I saw her glance at my coat pocket, at the envelope inside. Did she know? You okay? She asked, her voice trembling. I nodded. Yeah, fine. That night, I lay with my back to her, eyes wide open in the dark. Her phone buzzed softly under the pillow. I heard her whisper, Cole, don't worry. My hand clenched, nails cutting into skin. But I didn't turn, didn't ask. I just lay there, letting each word fall into me, like blades. The next morning, I sat in the garage. The ring lay on the table, the light catching it cold, like steel. On the truck seat, the envelope of photos. I knew one of them would have to disappear, and my life would never be the same again. That morning, the ground was still wet from rain. I stepped into the garage. The yellow light flickered across the smell of oil and grease. I opened my notebook, put pen to paper, and wrote down every detail. Nights Lauren came home late. Strange messages, short emails. The way her eyes avoided mine. I didn't trust my memory anymore. I needed proof. Cold, written proof. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Don't do anything reckless. Let them destroy themselves. I knew it was Hannah. I typed back, I'll stay calm. Thank you. A short message, but it pulled me back from the edge. I opened my banking app. The balance was low. Too low. A transaction. Mountain Lodge, weekend. My chest tightened. The very place. From the cabin photos. Not just betrayal. They were using our money to fund it. I clenched the phone, sweat in my palms, and for a moment, I realized I was paying for their happiness. That afternoon, Lauren texted, home late. I replied, we need to talk. No answer. When she finally came in, her heels echoed cold on the wooden floor. I blocked her in the living room. We need to be clear. I can't pretend anymore. She dropped her bag, crossed her arms. What do you want? A confession? Or just another excuse to control me? I swallowed hard. I want the truth. And fair boundaries. She smirked. Boundaries? Fine. You sleep in that room. Stay out of my phone. Don't ask where I go. I said, I'll respect that. But don't use our money anymore. She laughed. A sharp, hollow laugh. Our money? You really think after all these years, you still have a claim? Keep your scraps if you want. I need freedom, and freedom has a price." Then she turned, left me alone, in a room that felt colder than ice. I retreated to the garage and made a list. Separate accounts, lawyer, therapy, backup documents, men's support group. I called a law office. A calm woman's voice replied, "Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Bring everything." Just one call. But it felt like building a fence against the storm. The next morning, I sat at an old wooden desk. The silver-haired lawyer listened, took notes. I laid out photos, statements, emails. She looked at me and said, "You'll need lawful evidence. No sneaking. Stay calm. Stay clean financially. If you lose control, they'll use it against you." I nodded. It felt like learning how to breathe again. That afternoon, I passed by the church. On the board outside, men's group, Thursday, 7 p.m. I stood there a long time. The organ playing inside loosened something in my chest. I didn't walk in, just took a picture, a promise to myself. That evening, Lauren didn't come home for dinner. I fried eggs, ate alone, the clink of fork against plate, dry and metallic. Later, in the bedroom, I froze. On her pillow, a faint red lipstick stain, small, but enough to kill whatever hope was left. My phone buzzed. A text from Hannah. "Don't be reckless. Cole knows you met me. He won't let it go." I read it again and again. Won't let it go. What did that mean? I pulled the curtain aside. Outside, the street empty, the yellow glow of the lamppost. I locked the door. Again, close to midnight, an engine roared outside. Headlights swept across the curtain. The car stopped. I held my breath. A door opened. Footsteps on gravel. Coming closer. I braced myself, waiting for the knock. But nothing. Just silence. Then, footsteps retreating. A door slammed. The engine started. The car drove away. I collapsed onto the steps, heart pounding. I wasn't afraid of a fight. I was afraid one reckless move would turn everything into ash. The next morning, I opened the garage. A man in a brown coat walked up, held out papers. "Alaric Murphy, this is for you." I took them. On the first page, bold letters. "Petition for divorce." I froze in place, the smell of cold steel around me, the ring still sitting on the workbench. My hands shook. My heart hit the concrete floor. Just a few pages, but heavy as a stone on my chest. Those words, petition for divorce, not just a form, but a slap across everything I had fought to hold. I set the papers down. Beside the ring, one, complete. The other, sharp. I let out a bitter laugh. So, she moved faster than I thought. That evening, Lauren saw the papers on the table. She smirked. "So you got them? Good. No more pretending?" I asked, my voice shaking. "That's it. 10 years. Ended by a few sheets of paper." She crossed her arms, cold. "In those 10 years, you spent more time in that garage than with me. Did you really think I'd live forever with the shadow of a failed man?" I went numb. Not because of the word failed, but because, in her eyes, I wasn't even a man anymore. The next morning, I returned to the lawyer. She looked at me carefully. "You can't stop this petition, but you can choose how to stand. Stay calm. Keep your records. Don't let your emotions destroy what's left." I nodded. Each word cut deep, but I knew she was right. That afternoon, I went to the men's support group. A small room, warm yellow light, a circle of men, mostly silent. One gray-haired man patted my shoulder. "You don't have to tell us everything. Just know, no one here will laugh at you." My eyes burned. Another man whispered, "I once lost everything. But then I realized, losing everything meant I had a chance to rebuild." The pain didn't vanish. But for the first time, I felt I wasn't completely alone. When I came home, a credit card bill sat on the table. I opened it. My heart sank. Hotel charges, fine dining, dates matching Lauren's business trips. No, I collapsed into the chair, head in my hands. I was paying for my own betrayal. The phone rang. Hannah, her voice shaking. "Alaric, Cole is furious. He says you're ruining his life. I'm afraid he'll come after you." I clenched the phone. "I just want peace." She choked back tears. "He doesn't see it that way. Please, don't be alone too late at night." Then the line went dead. That night, I sat in the garage, tried to write, Tried to stay sane. Close to midnight. The engine again. Headlights. Then silence. A car door opened. Footsteps. Whispers outside the garage door. Too faint to understand, but enough to make my skin crawl. Then, 3 knocks. Slow. Heavy. I froze, clutching my pen like a weapon. No one called my name. No note. No trace. After a long moment, the footsteps faded. A door slammed. The car pulled away. I leaned back against the wall, chest heaving. I had never felt so small, so invisible. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was losing the very right to stand as a man in my own home. The next morning, Lauren didn't even look at me. She ate quickly, left without a word. I sat there, staring at her empty chair, thinking, maybe in her eyes, I had vanished long ago. By noon, I called the lawyer, asked about personal protection. Her voice steady. If you feel threatened, go to the police. But don't act on impulse. One mistake now could cost you everything. I nodded, but my chest grew heavier. That night, I opened my notebook and wrote, the day she filed for divorce. The day I became a stranger in my own family. The pen stopped. My eyes on the wedding ring. It glimmered under the dim bulb, mocking me. My phone buzzed. Another text. Unknown number. If you don't back off, next time won't stop at knocking. I read it again and again. This wasn't a warning anymore. This was a declaration of war, and I knew the storm had only just begun. The threatening text still lit on my phone. Every word, like a blade carved into my chest. I knew I couldn't sit still anymore. The next day, I met Hannah, a small cafe by the river. Curtains swayed in the wind. She sat tucked in the corner, eyes darting toward the door. When I sat down, she slid an envelope across the table. Don't open it here, she whispered. In it, copies of papers Cole signed, under Lauren's name. If the police get involved, you'll be the first one dragged in. He's already planned it. I gripped the envelope. Sweat dampened my back. Why give this to me? Her eyes dropped, voice trembling. Because I was her once. I left a good man to chase Cole. Thought it was freedom. Now, I see Lauren walking the same path. But I won't let another man be crushed the way my ex-husband was. You need the truth to defend yourself. Her words hit like a fist. Not just betrayal. They were digging a hole in my name, turning me into the debtor. When I got home, Lauren was waiting in the living room, silence heavy enough to hear the clock ticking. She pushed an envelope toward me. Sign it. Don't drag this out. If you sign, at least you'll still have some value. I looked at the envelope, then at her. I know about the credit line, about Cole, and I have proof. For a moment she froze, then smiled cold. You think anyone will believe a grease-stained mechanic? While I have lawyers, I have Cole. You're nothing but a name to sign debt. Useful. Until you're not. My chest tightened. I thought I was invisible to her, but it was worse. I was just a name, to be discarded. I drew a breath, held my voice low. Maybe, but I won't stay silent anymore. If I have to, the whole world will see who you really are. Lauren shot to her feet. Her shadow stretched long against the wall. Twisted, she slammed the envelope on the table, her voice icy. You'll regret this. For daring to fight me. Wind howled at the door. Curtains snapped like whips. I sat frozen, listening to my heartbeat hammering in my ears. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't about losing my wife anymore. This was war, and the person I once loved most was now the most dangerous enemy of my life. I asked myself, was this the worst yet, or just the beginning? That night, I didn't sleep. 2 envelopes lay on the garage table. One from Lauren, one from Hannah. A trap, and a weapon, both heavy, pressing down on my chest. I stared at them, feeling trapped, in a battle with no escape. The next morning, a black car sat outside my house. Inside, Cole, watching me through tinted glass. I walked straight to him. The window slid down, smoke curling into the air. He pressed the burning tip of his cigarette against the edge of the window, the glowing ash inches from my hand. You should sign, Alaric. Before my hand slips, I stared at him, said quietly, I won't sign, and I have proof. His lip curled, fingers tapped the wheel, each tap sharp, like a hammer striking steel. I've crushed men tougher than you. Look at me. What do you see? I met his eyes. And in that moment, I didn't see a monster. I saw myself, years ago, arrogant, believing I was untouchable. And I realized he wasn't invincible. He was just another man, terrified of losing control. And that was my chance. I see a man who knows he's about to lose everything. His eyes flashed with rage. He gunned the engine. Tires screamed down the street. That night, Lauren came home. On the table, I laid Hannah's envelope, the forged papers inside. I said, "If you don't confess tomorrow, these go to the police." Her face drained pale, then exploded. "You think you're clever? You're nothing. A washed-up mechanic. You think scraps of paper can destroy me?" She screamed, hurled a glass, shards scattering across the floor. Then she collapsed into the chair, shaking, breath ragged. For a second, I thought I saw weakness, but she lifted her head, eyes cold as ice. "You won't do it, Alaric. You're not cruel enough." I stayed silent. But inside, I knew maybe she was wrong. I had changed. The man sitting across from her wasn't the same Alaric who once endured in silence. I had learned to look darkness in the eye. Later, I stepped into the garage. Wind howled outside. I touched my notebook. My hand trembled, but not from fear. I realized I was becoming something else. Sharper, harder, more dangerous. I whispered to myself, if they come knocking tomorrow, I'll be the one to open the door first. The threatening text, still glowing on my phone. Every word carved into me like a blade. I knew I couldn't sit still any longer. The next day, I met Hannah. A small cafe by the river. The wind tugged at the old curtains. She sat in the corner, eyes scanning the door, again and again. When I sat down, she slid a thin envelope across the table. "Don't open it here," she whispered. Inside, copies of papers, Cole signed under Lauren's name. "If the police get involved, you'll be the first one dragged in. He's already planned it." I gripped the envelope, sweat soaking my back. "Why give this to me?" Her face dropped. Her voice shook. "Because I was her once. I left a good man to chase Cole. Thought it was freedom. Now I see Lauren walking the same path. But I won't let another man be crushed the way my ex-husband was. You need the truth to defend yourself." Her words hit me like a punch. This wasn't just betrayal. They were using my name to dig the hole deeper, turning me into the debtor. When I got home, Lauren was waiting in the living room, the clock ticking loud in the silence. She pushed an envelope across the table. "Sign it. Don't drag this out. If you sign, at least you'll still have some worth." I looked at the envelope, then straight at her. "I know about the credit line, about Cole, and I have proof." For a moment she froze. Then she smiled, sharp and cold. "You think anyone will believe a greasy mechanic? While I have lawyers, I have Cole. You're nothing but a name to carry debt. Useful. Until you're not." My chest twisted. I thought I was invisible to her. But no, I was worse. Just a signature to bleed dry. I steadied my voice. Low. "Maybe, but I won't stay silent anymore. If I have to, the whole world will see who you really are." She shot to her feet. Her shadow stretched long on the wall. Crooked. She slammed the envelope down. Her voice cut like ice. "You'll regret this, Alaric. You'll regret fighting me." The wind howled at the window. Curtains snapped, like they echoed her threat. I sat there, heart hammering, and I realized this wasn't about losing a wife anymore. This was va? That night, I didn't sleep. 2 envelopes sat on the garage table. One from Lauren, one from Hannah. A trap and a weapon, both pressing down, like stones on my chest. The next morning, a black car waited outside. Inside, Cole, watching. I walked to him. The window slid down. Smoke drifted out. He pressed his cigarette to the glass edge. The burning ash, inches from my hand. "You should sign, Alaric, before my hand slips." I met his eyes, said flat, "I won't sign, and I have proof." He sneered, tapped his finger on the wheel. Each tap, like a hammer strike. "I've crushed men tougher than you. Look at me. What do you see?" I stared at him, and I didn't see a monster. I saw myself, years ago, arrogant, thinking I was untouchable. And I understood. He wasn't invincible. He was just a man, afraid of losing control. That was my opening. I see a man who knows he's about to lose everything. His eyes flared. He slammed the gas. Tires screamed as he tore down the street. That night, Lauren came home. I set Hannah's envelope on the table. The forged papers inside? I said, "If you don't confess tomorrow, these go to the police." Her face went pale. Then she exploded. "You think you're clever? You're nothing. A filthy mechanic. You think scraps of paper will bring me down." She screamed, hurled a glass. Shards scattered across the floor. Then she collapsed, shoulders shaking, breath ragged. For a second, I saw weakness. But then she lifted her head, eyes cold as steel. "You won't do it, Alaric. You're not cruel enough." I stayed silent. But inside, I knew. She was wrong. I wasn't the same Alaric anymore. I had learned to stare into the dark. Later, I stepped into the garage. The wind rattled the doors. I touched my notebook, my hand trembling. But not from fear. I realized I was becoming something else. Sharper, harder, more dangerous. I whispered, "If they come knocking tomorrow, I'll be the one to open the door first." 48 hours passed. No knock at the door. Only silence. Heavy. Unbroken. On the final morning, I stepped out with my bag. Lauren leaned against the doorway, eyes red. She didn't say stay. She didn't say sorry. Only one line. Half curse, half prophecy. "You'll never escape him." I looked at her for a long time. Then I nodded. Maybe, but at least, I'm still myself. I drove away. In the rearview mirror, the small house, the garage, my past, fading. I opened the bag. The key Cole had left, cold in my hand. He had stepped into the deepest part of me. But instead of fear, I laughed. If he wanted me to live like prey, he was wrong. I still had breath. I still had this heart. And I chose not to kneel. Outside the windshield, fog swallowed the road. Far ahead, headlights flashed. A car trailing me. I didn't know who it was. Could have been him. Could have been a stranger. But I didn't turn back. I gripped the wheel, whispered to myself, "They can take everything, except me." And so I kept driving, not to run, but to live, as a man who finally knew who he was.